Hello, everyone, and welcome to a really very special Talking Feds one-on-one. You often hear today's guest needs no introduction, but it's really true with today's guest, and it's a good thing because we just have a short time with him. Welcome to California Senator Adam Schiff.
Hey,
Thank you
it's great
so
to be
much.
with you. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for being here. In the time we have, Senator, I wanted to talk hopefully about both the current state of play with the more brazen examples of the president's self-enrichment sort of agenda, and then more generally about what can be done to try to stem the tide. So let me just jump right in with the palace in the sky, the Qatari jet that we're told anyway that the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, has now accepted to be retooled to serve as Air Force One and then a kind of monument thereafter in Trump's presidential foundation. A little problem. It's completely unconstitutional under the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution, which specifies Congress must approve it. We've been seeing so many ways in which Trump, it's a large subset of his overall kind of tyrannical acts, but has been just completely ignoring Congress. Just this morning, a judge enjoined what he had done in the Department of Education, saying you ignored Congress. But given the total surrender to the president of congressional Republicans, what, if anything, is to be done now just to enforce the Constitution?
Well, I think we need to continue to make an issue of this in every way we can. I've been demanding an inspector general investigation in the Justice Department, in the Defense Department. We can't rely, of course, on Pam Bondi, the Attorney
Right.
General, who supposedly issued an
Yep.
opinion blessing this deal. She's the former lobbyist for Qatar.
Yep.
And we're going to rely on her word. Stop this deal, Donald Trump, criminal defense lawyer. And nor can, of course, we rely on Pete Hegseth. The role of the Defense Department here seems to be that to launder the plane, which clearly violates the Constitution, as you say. The Constitution, just to remind your viewers, basically says that no person holding office shall accept a present from any foreign state. I was questioning one of the Trump nominees about this yesterday or the day before for a different high Justice Department position, the head of the Office of Legal Counsel.
Yep.
They're one of the offices that advise the Justice Department of what's legal and what's not legal. And I said, are you allowed to accept a big plane? Are you allowed to accept a present? Actually, I didn't even mention a plane. Are you allowed to accept a present from a foreign state as an office holder without the consent of Congress? And couldn't get an answer from this candidate for top lawyer because, of course, you can't. But that's exactly what's happening. And the reason that's in the Constitution, as you know, is the American people have a right to know the president is acting on their behalf and not to repay some foreign, you know, despot, king, emir, prince, princeling, you name it, for some lavish gift. And what more lavish gift than you could have than this well-appointed multi-$100 million plane?
With 11 bathrooms and gold faucets. It's true, but not just any princeling either. We have here a state that has been really very supportive of Hezbollah and Hamas and people who, the support of which are not really in our national interest. You have, besides that, the kind of security issues that some Republicans, Senator Cruz, I'm thinking, have said, wait a second, we'd have to take it down to its studs just to be sure there isn't some kind of surveillance there. So, what do you think? Time and time again, they have given him what he wanted. Do you see some pushback and scrutiny here? And I just want to say, first of all, I love talking to you because I think you are the leading light in the Senate for the combination of law, politics, and rhetoric, how to present. We learned that in the first term. But if no consent by Congress, no permission to have it, period. So if they do nothing, that still should be the status. But I don't know if there's any way to effectuate that command. It does seem as if some of your colleagues on the right are pretty worried about this one. Do you have a feel for how it will actually play out now that we, as a country, supposedly have accepted this gift?
Well, I think you were exactly right in your assessment of where the Republicans are when you said they're worried.
Yeah,
Well, we hear a lot of worry, Harry. We hear a lot of concern, but we see no action.
right.
The limit seems to be you can have a anodyne expression of concern as a Republican, but you can't go beyond that. So there isn't going to be a congressional consent to this. They would never be able to get that passed.
Right.
But neither is there going to be any effort made by Republicans to actually uphold and enforce the Constitution as we all took an oath to do. So, the way to make this a problem for them, the way to get to the president to back off this is make the cost just too heavy for this plane.
Yeah.
Make the graft really clear to the American people. This plane may not even be ready until he's 1 foot out the door.
Or
This
two,
is all
really. That's
about
what
him.
people say, right? It's not easy to retool a plane like this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it isn't. It's going to cost hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion, to retrofit this aircraft. It may not be done until it goes to him as private citizen, Donald Trump. That's the whole point. It's all about
Yeah.
what's in it for him personally. So, we got to make them wear this aircraft, justify it, excuse it, explain it. And frankly, we've got to raise the cost for Qatar as well. They may have thought this plane would ingratiate themselves with Donald Trump, or maybe they were coerced into do it because it certainly appears that this is something what Trump was asking for that they were not offering. But we got to make it clear to Qatar that no, this will be a real liability for you. That this president, as other presidents come and go, but the Congress will have a long memory
Yeah.
about this unconstitutional gift.
All right. And there are dozens on this list, but I want to just touch on one other because you have made it a really big point, and that is in the general pattern of sort of self enrichment, this kind of breathtaking scheme with the meme coins, which you recently called the single most corrupt self-serving act of any president in American history. That's saying a lot, but you've made your words about Trump. You've really cashed those checks, I think, Senator. Just today, Trump is hosting the top 220 holders of this very coin at a golf club. Just help us briefly connect the dots here. What are we looking at? What does it say about the state of accountability and influence in American politics right now? Why do you single this out as such a brazen and outrageous scheme?
So this meme coin, and I know a lot of people are trying to
Yeah.
understand what's a meme coin, what's a stable
Anyway,
coin, what's
exactly. Yeah.
all you need to know about this. This is essentially a coin that digitally bears the likeness of Donald Trump. It has no intrinsic value except as kind of a souvenir or an expression of support. But when you buy it or you sell it, Donald Trump gets a personal commission. That's money that goes right into Donald Trump's pocket. So this coin has gone up in value, it's gone down in value. People that want to curry favor with Donald Trump buy the coin. You've got one guy who is under fraud investigation by the US government. He bought several $1 million worth of the coin. That was abundantly clear to Donald Trump, and that investigation has been suspended. So this is blatant way to buy influence. And just on the commissions, set aside whatever value the coin has at any particular moment, which fluctuates like crazy. But with every purchase and sale, the commissions go into his pocket. That's been hundreds of millions of dollars for Donald Trump personally. And this gala dinner, where
Right.
they're essentially inviting access to the president and to the White House, this isn't like a campaign fundraising gala where the money goes into some campaign. This is money that goes into Donald Trump's pocket. The graft is just out in the open. But Harry, I want to mention, I know we have limited time, and this is sort of core to what you focused on, and it's kind of breaking news.
Yeah.
We saw just a day ago a federal district court say that Donald Trump was in contempt of court order. We see today in the wee hours of the morning, the House pass this big ugly reconciliation bill, include a provision to defund any effort to enforce court orders. This is such a direct assault on the rule of law.
Yeah.
So you've got all the corruption of the plane and the meme coin and all the graft, but you've also got these daggers pointed at the heart of our democracy that really are worthy of our constant attention.
Yeah, it's a provision that was smuggled in basically to make it impossible, too expensive for people to be able to get injunctions. I do want to note a connection between what you said, Senator, because in this latest opinion saying, no, 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 you can't do what you've done with the Department of Education, there's actually a final paragraph that says, maybe the judge was anticipating it, we can do this without posting a bond under our inherent judicial power. So I think that if this passes in the big beautiful bill, and that's the problem with big beautiful bills, they have poison pills like this one, there will be some effort anyway to still make it possible for all the people aggrieved by his unconstitutional conduct simply to try to get the courts to enforce the Constitution. All right, time is so short, but I want to bring it back to you and to the the a minority party. You've said you agreed with Senator Booker, who seemed to wake some people up with his recent 25-hour address that the Democrats have been not thinking big enough, acting bold enough. And yet, as we've seen, the opportunities are few. I thought you very effectively, and it made the national news, cross-examined the EPA head yesterday. But I just want to ask you in the few minutes we have left, Senator, what does boldness, more and more people are, I think, seeing what's up with Trump, but what on in terms of the alternative, what does boldness actually look like from the minority now? How should you and the party be finding moments to break through and to make waves and to influence the national conversation even without the gavel, as it were?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of tools that we have, and they're not a perfect cure to this illness that is the Trump administration. But we've had some very powerful hearings, shadow hearings. I held one with Jamie
Right.
Raskin where we
Right.
brought in Justice Department people who were fired or quit because they wouldn't perform unethical acts. We are now starting to see people with the courage to testify, to speak out like that. We're seeing institutions defend themselves. I've been on the phone to the college I went to, the law school I attended, to stiffen their spine to get them to stand up. Harvard
Yep.
is now the subject of yet another punitive action
Today,
by
right? No
legislation.
international students. Can you imagine? Yeah.
You
Go
know,
ahead.
they
Yeah.
don't know what to do when someone stands up to them and they have to try to make an example out of Harvard. We need to stand together. We need to fight them in every way. Our universities do, our law firms do, our legislators do, with every means that we have. And we all have some means to do it. It might be a 25-hour filibuster by Cory Booker. It might be a shadow hearing by Jamie Raskin and myself. It might be cross-examining people. It might be demands for independent investigations. It might be new utilization of digital media. But in every means that we can, we need to be pushing back. And I've also been reaching out to the law firms where I was once a lawyer and others. And individual Americans need to do the same. There are wonderful ways to get involved locally with protests, with letter writing campaigns, to make our voices heard and to make sure that we're holding accountable our colleagues. I'm going to make sure they own everything Donald Trump does.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure they own that airplane. I'm going to make sure the Republicans that vote for this big, ugly bill own every hospital closure, every clinic closure. We need to go to their communities and make the case. And this is how we mitigate the harms until we can throw these bums out.
Senator Adam Schiff, thank you so much for your work and your time today.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Excellent.